could read your thoughts. From the future.
The movies of
1985.
Hello everybody, and welcome to week 7 of the year 1985, Tuesday the 12th of February to Monday the 18th of February. My name is Jason Hutchins. I'm trapped in the year 1985. So what I do for entertainment every week is I spin a bingo machine to select a movie from 1985, which I go and rent from a video store and watch. And everyone on Discord follows along watching the movie as well, making comments on the various Discord groups that we have set up. So please feel free to click on the link in the show notes to join the Discord server and show your face. It would be good to have a few new people to chat along with us. Now, without further ado, I am going to go straight to the bingo machine and find out what movie we'll be watching this week. And that number was out straight away, wasn't it? It is number 41. So let me just go to my old-fashioned 1985 spreadsheet. And number 41 is Police Story, Jackie Chan, Hong Kong movie. I remember seeing Jackie Chan in the 80s on video cassette, but I think I only saw a compilation of all his fight sequences. It will be good to go back on and watch Police Story again. I know that Craig will be happy that that's made the cut. So I'll just switch on the TV and you can listen to whatever's on while I pop down to the video store to pick up the videotape. Back in a jiffy.
Mr. Wong! Mr.
All
Wong!
the cities in Hong Kong.
Excuse me, Mr. Wong.
Yes, what happened?
I've lost all my traveller's checks.
Oh, what kind were they?
Oh, American Express.
American Express.
Yeah.
They've got an office right here in Hong Kong.
In Hong
Okay,
Kong
I'm
and
back.
in hundreds of other cities,
Let me just
you can
pop this
find
in.
help with American Express traveler's
So-
checks. Ask for them by name.
That's interesting. An ad set in Hong Kong, was that racist at all? I'm not sure. Anyway, I had a bit of a drive today because I had to go down to Mega Movies in Mandurah. They have a really good Hong Kong action movie section, so it's the only place I could find Police Story in 1985. It wasn't actually released in Australia until 1986. Don't know how they do it down there in Mandurah. Anyway, let's just have a look at the video cassette, the cover of the VHS here. So the front cover has like a painted representation of Jackie Chan, looking not quite like Jackie Chan, very wrinkly. He's on a flaming background. The title says Jackie Chan in Police Story, and then the O of police and the O of story are two bullets. If you just imagine looking at the end of a bullet, it would be a circle, right? If you're looking at the base of it. And then sort of in smaller detailed painting next to him, there's a warehouse or a rundown house with a couple of cars bursting out of it. And there's a picture of Jackie Chan kicking someone in the guts. And turning over to the back of the videotape cover to read the blurb, it says, you may know the name, but the game has changed. Officer Chan Kaku, sorry about my pronunciation, manages to put a major Hong Kong drug dealer behind the bars, practically alone, after a shooting and an impressive chase inside a slum. Now he must protect the boss's secretary, Selena, who will testify against the gangster in court. So you don't really need to know much more about that. Directed by Jackie Chan, starring Jackie Chan, stunts and karate fight sequences by Jackie Chan. You know what I mean. It's a Jackie Chan movie. So really looking forward to seeing this. Like I say, I haven't seen it properly in a long time. And in 1985, I only saw a compilation of Jackie Chan's stunts and fights. I don't think I saw Police Story until the 90s on SBS probably. So anyway, without further ado, let me unpause the video and you can listen to the trailer while I watch all 100 minutes of Police Story which in the future, in the year 2025, you can rent on Google Play Movies. So let me press play now and we'll get right into it.
Jackie Chan. Hold it! Dynamic. Dauntless. Resourceful. A ladies' man. He's no average cop, but he gets the job done. At first, he was hailed as a hero.
Lock him in the cells. Yes, sir. Book him. For murder.
Until he got set up.
Get in!
Now his whole police precinct is after him. To clear his name, his only chance is to get the crooks who framed him. Jackie Chan is a one-man battalion. As he sets his record straight in Police Story.
Well, that was a pretty interesting movie. I only ever saw highlights of Jackie Chan's fighting. I don't think I saw a full movie until a bit after 1985. I also must apologize because at the beginning I said it was his fighting style was karate, but of course it's not. Jackie Chan has a bunch of different fighting styles. He has studied Japanese fighting, including karate, but he's sort of more of an acrobat and more well known for using props and doing all sorts of insane stunts. Hang on, there's the doorbell. I've never had a visitor before in 1985. Let me go and answer the door and see who it is. So who could it be? My old pal, my old next door neighbour, Craig Talbot from last season. Are you also trapped in 1985, are you, Craig?
I'm here. Well, hello everyone. I'm back for this episode at least.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Well, I did overhear you talking about the fighting style.
Yeah.
And I do have to correct you slightly. It is Kung Fu. He invented a new style which is shown in the movie Drunken Master, which is a couple of years before this one.
Yeah.
Or a few years before this one, actually, which is the drunken fighting style, the
Yes.
Drunken Master style. So, like, this movie for me, I don't know if it's the first Jackie Chan movie that I saw. I can't remember exactly, but it is certainly one of the most spectacular. So it's a iconic movie in the sense that it really set Hong Kong on a different path in terms of quality of movie and style of movie.
Let me just give a very quick run through of the very beginning of the movie. It doesn't take much time to set everything up to get the plot going compared to some of the previous movies that I've watched this year. So including the Golden Harvest presentation stuff at the beginning, like the producers of the film, it only takes about 5 minutes to get right into the thick of the action. So you sort of see the movie begins with the police chief giving a talk to all of the police officers describing this businessman, Joe Chu. But at the same time, you see everything happening. So he's in the back of the car with a ridiculously large mobile phone and his businesses are losing a lot of money. His bodyguard, who's called Psycho Wayne, leads a gang of hired muscle, and his nephew, Danny Chu, and right-hand man, John Ko, and Selena Fong, this beautiful woman, they're also part of this gang. And the police decide to go and round them all up in an operation called Operation Wild Boar. All of the police officers are given envelopes with instructions, like personal instructions, which they then shred You see the gang heading out to this shanty village built on a sloping hill, and the police officers are there surveying everything. They're sort of in disguise, setting up roadblocks. Jackie Chan, and his character name in this movie is Jackie Chan as well. He arrives in a red car. We see Joe Chu, this businessman, being given a briefcase filled with American $100 bills. And that sets everything up. That's the first 5 minutes. That goes straight into a shootout, which becomes fighting and car chase. And then Jackie Chan he uses an umbrella to grab onto a bus. And eventually he's hailed as a hero for catching this gang and has to protect Selena, who's in witness protection because she's going to testify against them. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, it's a pretty full-on sequence, especially that sequence where they go charging down through the village.
Yeah.
All of the cars. I think there's 3 or 4 cars. Good old Mitsubishi got good use out of their sponsorship of Jackie Chan in this movie. There's,
right.
I think, about 8 or 9 cars totaled in.
You do see the old Hong Kong taxis as well. Those Toyota Crowns or whatever.
Yeah, there's a few other cars other than Mitsubishi's, but yeah, you'll notice that his own car is actually an old Honda Civic, which is quite funny, but. But yeah, no, at this time he was sponsored by Mitsubishi as a personal sponsor. So pretty much every movie had Mitsubishi cars in it. I may have mentioned it on the podcast before, I think.
Yeah, because he drove this ridiculous. He drove like this customized car in that movie that we saw last year in one of your intermissions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the stunts in this opening sequence are insane because you've got people walking around on the rooftops in this shanty village, and meanwhile the cars are just driving down the hill and smashing through all these little buildings made of.
I think my favourite stunt for mine is he races down that hill, and it's a really, really steep hill, and he runs down the hill, and he's running down this hill, and then he jumps on the bus and. Like the whole umbrella thing with the bus. It's just completely nuts, but it's so quintessentially Jackie Chan.
Yeah, he's hanging off the back of the bus with the umbrella. Yeah, there's a lot of humour.
Yeah. Look, I obviously am very enthusiastic about these movies. I've seen Police Story 2. I just noticed actually that on SBS On Demand, they have a lot of the other movies as well. So they have a lot of Bruce Lee, Ip Man, and also Jackie Chan movies currently available on their roster. So there's a couple that I haven't seen.
For all those people in the future, in the year 2025.
For the people in the future.
Because here in 1985, we don't have SBS yet. In fact, it isn't even named.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, the Eastern States have Channel 28, but we won't get it in Perth for another year. I have a little bingo sheet that I do when I'm watching these 1985 movies, and I reckon it got 6 bingo points. It even got a bingo point for breakdancing. Did you notice the breakdancing scene?
Yes, there was a bit of breakdancing.
So Jackie Chan steps in a cow pat, and he has to wipe it off his shoe, and he ends up doing a breakdance, including a moonwalk.
Yes, no, I saw that. Yes, I did see that. I thought that was quite funny.
But
he was trained in dance and singing and everything.
That's right.
So the training he went through was, let's just say, pretty brutal. It was a very, very tough training. So he was trained in all of these things, and he does sing. He has actually got a few singles that were very successful.
He sings the song on the end credits in this movie, yeah.
Yeah,
and they show all the behind the scenes, and he's singing the song at the same time.
He's an impressive man. His mate Raymond Chow is the executive producer.
Yep.
This was co-written by Jackie Chan actually and Edward Tang, and this is one of a number of movies that he actually writes.
Yeah. He does everything, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does everything. And his whole stunt team, he's got his own stunt team.
Yeah, and while they were making this movie, all the stunt guys called it Glass Story because there's so much broken glass in this movie.
Especially in that mall sequence.
In the mall sequence, they just smash everything, don't they?
There is just an insane amount of glass broken. And I was actually sitting through that whole mall sequence giggling my head off because I'd forgotten how utterly ridiculous it was.
Yeah, they just go over the top. And you know, you use this stunt glass, this sugar glass, but normally it's made quite thin, but they made it extra thick for this movie, which resulted in some full-on injuries because, you know, it was as thick as proper glass windows and stuff,
Yeah, like pretty much everyone walked out of this movie with an injury of some sort.
Yeah, they show them on the end credits, people getting carried away.
And they show you in the and Jackie Chan himself was hospitalised with second-degree burns after the mall scene because they had to use full power to make the lights work, and they couldn't use a battery as they had intended.
LED lights, so they would have been really hot. All the globes.
So he ended up with second-degree burns from the globes. The globes that whole sequence is incredible. So it's probably one of the most incredible stunts ever done on film.
He's about 6 floors up, and he jumps onto a pole and basically does a fireman's pole slide down to the ground floor. Yeah. But the pole's covered in Christmas lights, and they did that stunt without rehearsal, without a safety net. They just went ahead and did it.
In fact,
there's no OH&S in Hong Kong cinema, is there?
They mistimed the stunt, so they had been pushing things really hard, and apparently the mall was a bit grumpy with them. So this final scene, which they had to get right, as you say, there was no time to rehearse it. So he's standing up there 6 stories up. He's supposed to nod to tell them that he's ready to go. And before he was ready to go, he made a slight movement with his head, and they turned all the cameras on. And he realised that the cameras were running. Yep. And there's apparently, very unusually for Hong Kong cinema, there was 12 cameras running, and like they had only a limited amount of film for all these cameras.
They were slow motion cameras, so they're burning through film a lot more quickly as well.
That's right. So he had to just go. He heard the cameras running, and he just basically jumped out 8 feet. 8 feet it was to get to the pole.
Yeah.
And apparently that was no big deal. And then down the pole, and then there's just this spectacular light show as, you know, the electricity lights, the lights go bang and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's an incredible scene, and it's one that sticks in your head forever. Yeah. It is one of the most spectacular stunts.
Yeah,
given that it was done in real life and not faked in any way.
That's right.
And all he does is fall through a fairly thick glass ceiling down to the ground.
Yeah.
And then gets up and starts fighting. He said from the adrenaline, he just got up and started fighting, and they actually had to stop him at the end.
Yeah, he just started fighting around
so
the
hyped
people.
up. Yeah.
But he dislocated his hip or something like that on the landing as well.
Yeah,
so
vertebrae,
he had
a couple of vertebrae,
second-degree burns
and something else as well. So
just continuing to
he
fight.
ended up quite injured. I mean, he's often compared to Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee and he are very different, though. Jackie Chan really found his straps when he started adding in this comedic element, this sort of humour. Whereas Bruce Lee was always extremely serious and extremely intense.
He does channel a little bit of Bruce Lee in this movie because he has some of those angry face, intense face moments. And the cover of the VHS, and I think the movie poster has a hand illustrated picture of his face where he does sort of have that Bruce Lee look.
Yeah, this one was a much more serious movie, but this was the very first time that anyone had done a police martial arts movie, and he did it as a result of being really disappointed with the movie that he did in the US and them not giving him control.
And it was interesting to see like the British Hong Kong in this movie as well, because towards the end of the movie they have this very British courtroom sequence, don't they? You know, they're sort of testifying in court against this businessman.
Yeah, well, it's 12 years until
12 years before, whereas the in 99, of course, it was a couple of years afterwards when we watched that other Jackie Chan movie.
Yeah, look, this is for me. I really enjoyed watching it again. It's reignited my love of kung fu movies, so there's a few that I need to watch. This is up there, I think, with the best of the kung fu movies. I mean, there's a couple from Bruce Lee that are, legendary. This is up there. Drunken Master of his, Project A of his, and there's some other ones as well which are very, very good. But this one is interesting because of the scale of it. For the time, it was a big movie for a Hong Kong cinema.
Yeah, lots of stunts, lots of fights, and big budget.
Yeah, which is unusual for Hong Kong cinema, and actually made a fair bit of money too. It was pretty successful.
Now, I should say that I watched the dubbed version because in 1985 we didn't have subtitles on our videotapes, really. So watching this sort of movie, you did have the American dub of it, and Jackie Chan, it's not his real voice, and even though later on he did the English dubs himself, so he just sounds like some American guy. And I think a lot of the translation was perhaps written by somebody else as well. So the names that they used and some of the dialogue. So it was quite funny at times. Which
right.
version did you see? Did you watch a subbed
I
version?
watched the Cantonese version with
Yeah.
subtitles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always watch the original.
Well, you must have
Cantonese if I
somehow found that in 1985.
Yeah, well, I sort of went forward in time, got the DVD, and then came back in
Oh,
time.
wow. You're doing well,
Well, there
aren't
you go.
you? Well, maybe I can travel back to 2025 with you then if you know the secret of time travel.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much all I'm going to say about the movie. Is there any final words, Craig?
I think it's definitely worth seeing if you're a fan of this, particularly of the Kung Fu. The fight scenes in this are excellent.
Yeah, amazing.
There's some really brilliant fight scenes, and the speed of the fight scenes.
So fast. And, he's
again,
fighting 5 or 6 people at the same time in a lot of
that's
the
right.
sequences. Yeah. So,
Yeah, and all of the actors, all of the stuntmen that are fighting with him, they really commit to,
do
to
they
everything
ever?
that they're doing.
I mean, probably one of the craziest moments, which I don't even know how the people survived, is when he stops the bus and there's a couple of people on the top floor of the bus, because of course it's a double-decker bus, that go flying out of the window and land on the road.
Well, apparently they were supposed to land on the car.
Which would have been a much softer landing. I don't think so.
Not a lot softer, but a little bit softer. But apparently the bus stopped too short. And then, of course, they weren't going to do it again because that was probably fair. I mean, they're experienced stuntmen and they obviously knew how to land and how to roll and stuff, but it would have still hurt.
Oh, my
There's
God.
quite a few sequences where you can see the look on the face of the stuntman and you can tell it hurt.
Yeah, he'll be
the one where the
going to
guy
hospital.
flips over. Do you remember the one where they flip over and he falls down the middle of the escalator and lands on a and it's on a table? And there's actually an outtake of that where Jackie Chan is actually showing him how to do it. Like, this is what you're going to do, and you're going to look crazy as you're falling and then land. Because he was the director as well, and he allowed Selena Fong to do her own, Bridget Lin, who is the actual actress, do her own stunts. She wanted to do her own stunts, and there was a couple where she had to fall over a table, and apparently she fainted at the end of one of them, and as soon as she woke up, they made her do it again.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
said it wasn't quite right.
What a taskmaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, now it's time for...
I'm driving along and I'm just singing my song. I'm in a news-free zone.
This is where I go and look at some news from 1985, so we don't have to look at news from 2025.
All right.
Okay, so in the news this week, so we're in week 7 of the year 1985, Tuesday the 12th of February to Monday the 18th of February. So in this week, in Australia, Ray Martin took over Mike Walsh's old daytime slot, replacing the Mike Walsh show with the midday show with Ray Martin. That happened
It's
this week.
terrifying, but I remember that. But anyway, go on.
The Canadian Minister of National Defence, Robert Coates, resigned after it was revealed that he visited a strip club. How naughty.
You know what? I remember that one too.
Do you?
Yeah.
And I also mentioned this. Channel 28 rebranded itself as SBS this week in the eastern states, but it wouldn't launch in Perth for over another year. And
I remember because it was the only UHF station that we had when it finally did come to Perth.
That's right, yes.
So we all had to tune our TVs on UHF for the first time.
Figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
But even at this time, Channel 10 hadn't been launched yet. I think that was also 86 or 87. And Channel 9 was the only 24-hour station because they would show the late movie, the late movie, and the late movie, whereas the other channels
the ABC.
ABC and Channel 7 just
had
stopped.
the test pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty sure ABC showed the test pattern for at least an hour or something, and then maybe they turned it off. I can't remember.
No, maybe they turned it off and just went to snow, but they also closed during the day, like at 2 p.m. or something. They just said, we're going to close for an hour. Also this week, the WWF held the War to Settle the Score at Madison Square Garden, which was Hulk Hogan against Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Right.
And this was a prelude to what would become known as WrestleMania. It wasn't quite a thing yet, but there you go. What's that?
Just before you go on, I was just gonna mention there was an interesting little thing with Rotten Tomatoes.
With this movie?
With this movie. Well, related to this movie. So Rotten Tomatoes was actually started by 3 blokes who were really into Jackie Chan movies.
Oh, okay.
And originally, when it was started, now this is in 1998, so we're going forward in time, I'm sorry. But when Rotten Tomatoes was started, it was the only movies that were on it originally were Jackie Chan movies. And it was originally started by these three guys who are all fans of, and they basically coded the whole thing in 2 weeks. And they wanted to have it ready for the release of Rush Hour. And anyway, so I thought that was interesting that I didn't know about the history to do with Jackie Chan. So it was because Sen Duong was a huge fan of Jackie Chan's movies and originally. But I'll let you get back to your...
and Sen Duong is the name of my father-in-law, but I'm guessing it's not the same person.
Could be. This guy was in Canada, I believe.
Right, yeah. So anyway, Usenet, I've been reading Usenet, and you too can read Usenet from 1985 if you go to olduse.net in your browser. On net.general, it was Valentine's Day, so someone was proposing that you donate to Oxfam, UNICEF or the Red Cross for African famine relief. So it's the first time I've seen anyone mention that on Usenet, but of course that was huge in 1984 and 1985. There was also a post on net.sf lovers, which is science fiction lovers, about Japanese animation. So this is the first time I've seen a post about Japanese animation. They were talking about the TV series Star Blazers. Did you used to watch that on ABC, Craig? Space Battleship Yamato?
Oh, yes, that one I did. Yes,
yeah, they're sort of in a big old battleship flying through space. So that would have been on TV in 1985 for us. On net.books, a user named Jerry Boyer Jim had a big complicated theory about why Richard Bachman was not Stephen King, because the rumour going around for years was that this Richard Bachman fellow was actually Stephen King, writing under a pseudonym. And he says he was about to post his big, long theory, but what happened is Stephen King went on Entertainment Tonight and admitted that he was Richard Bachman, so sort of shot everything down. So that announcement happened this week in 1985 as well, which is interesting.
Right.
On net.movies, everyone is talking about the movie Witness with Harrison Ford, which had come out this week or the previous week. So there's a lot of reviews of people who had been to see it in the cinema. On net.micro.cbm, and that's Commodore Business Machines. So in San Francisco this week was the first ever all Commodore show. And a guy that worked the Commodore booth at the show posted lots of information about the new 128, which hadn't actually come out yet. So this sort of messes around with my memory because we were using Commodore 64s.
Definitely in 85.
The 128 hadn't come out yet, but the Amiga was shown at CES 12 months earlier in 1984.
Yeah, the 1000, I think, but it was very expensive.
So the 1000 was in public knowledge before the 128 was even in the shops. But
I don't think it was. I don't think it was available in Australia yet.
No, the Amiga hadn't been released yet. That will happen in another 4 or 5 months from now. Right. But it had certainly been announced, and people knew it was a much more powerful machine than the 128. So it was funny that the 128 still got released, I guess. But I remember the kid up the road, Matthew, used to have a 128, or his dad had one, but we all always just booted into 64 mode to play.
I don't reckon many 128s ever got used as 128s. I think they mostly got used as 64s. Yeah.
And then in net.music, let's see, there was a post talking about The Village Voice, which is a newspaper in New York, their Paz and Jop critics poll, which I suppose is some funny play on jazz and pop, where they were giving the top albums and the top singles. So do you remember much of the music of 1985? You were a fan of anything? No, it was the beginning of
I was probably in my Dire Straits period. I went through quite a long Dire Straits period.
Really?
So I feel like that was, because I think Brothers in Arms wasn't too far around.
I feel like that was a little bit after this, Brothers in Arms.
Might have
the
been.
one with the steel guitar
but I
on
know,
the cover.
that was probably my teenage years until I got into grunge later, but that's in the early 90s. But
I was listening to some ZZ Top and their album Eliminator.
Yes, I remember that actually.
So Eliminator is
used to have those posters of.
I did.
Did you have those posters? Yeah, you had the posters of ZZ Top, didn't you?
Eliminator
you were right into
and
I
Afterburner.
do remember that.
So Eliminator came out in 1984, so that's on the list for this year. And Talking Heads, Stop Making Sense is in there. So it is an interesting mix.
I feel like Twisted Sister was around at that time.
I don't see Twisted Sister on the chart. The Pretenders are on the chart here.
I was definitely listening to the Pretenders.
Cyndi Lauper and the Bangles. There's the Ramones and the Meat Puppets. The Smiths.
The Smiths, definitely.
Van Halen, George Clinton, U2 and REM as well.
REM and U2 I would have been listening to as well.
Yeah, not a big fan of either myself. And in terms of videos, Art of Noise, Close to the Edit, was given the number 1 video of the year. But Cyndi Lauper, Girls Just Want to Have Fun, was number 2.
Adam Ant would have been around at the time as well, I would imagine.
I think so, but not on those Village Voice charts. I just thought that was interesting. I saw it posted on the news group.
Possibly our mate Boy George might have been around too.
I think so too, yeah. Anyway, there you go.
And I think that was the early days of Madonna as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah. So Like a Virgin was already out for sure. Anyways, there you go. That's 1985. That's the news of 1985. And now it's over to the electronic tom-toms for the closing credits. So any final words, Craig, or did you want to go and play some Commodore 64?
I kind of do now. Well, thank you for having me on, Jason.
Well, please guest at any time. You're always welcome to ring the doorbell.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you for the opportunity. Nice to talk to you again, listeners.
I'll see you all next week.
Bye-bye.